Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm a senior partner here at Action Coach in Central Texas. Today, I am joined by Stephanie Houston, who is the owner of Island Getaway Rum and the co-host of the podcast It's Rum Time Somewhere. So very excited to be jumping into some conversation here. We're going to be talking about her business. We're going to be talking about the journey into business, into best practices, kind of sharing a sneak peek into what's really like to build and operate great businesses. So Stephanie, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today. I'd love if we could just start with just a general brief overview of your background and tell us a little bit about what is Island Getaway Rum.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tanner, for having me today. I'm always super excited about these types of forums where we get to talk about our business. And then hopefully somebody will catch something from it that really, sparks an idea or maybe solves a problem that they have at the time. But a little bit about me. So I'm a Texan through and through. If you ask me if I'm from San Antonio, Austin, or Dallas, I say yes, because I've spent a good portion of my life in all three of those cities. Born in San Antonio, raised in Dallas, college in UT, back to Dallas, back to Austin, which is my home now. And so, I get Texas. It's a fabulous place to live. Lots of amazing people and so many opportunities. Like one thing that we have to remember as Texans is we actually have the number 9 economy in the world. And so Texas is kind of a little force to be reckoned with just in general. And I think it's fun because whenever I tell people, like even when I was in Japan recently, I told people I was from Texas and they all like give me the hook 'em horns or they give me, like, oh, Dallas Cowboys, like everybody knows about Texas. And so that's been a really fun part for our brand. We have a lot of Texas pride here. There's a lot of state pride and there's just, again, it's kind of like this larger than life icon. And so for us, we really lean into that. My business partner is also from Houston. So now we've covered most of Texas, right, with those things. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I know that's not a ton, but I like I mentioned, I went to Austin. UT Austin. I had my own businesses, for like at least 20 years now. And so it's been a really awesome, crazy journey.
It is so fun. I'm excited to jump into a bit of the journey. But before we do, I want to get a little bit deeper into Island Getaway Rum.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit more about what exactly is Island Getaway Rum for someone who's never heard of it before.
So we're a rum manufacturer here in Texas. We started off as High Rum, and that's HYE. We started off in this little town called High. High is on the way to Fredericksburg, but it's on this 25-mile stretch of wine road, which is the number 2 most traveled wine road in the United States. And for anyone who knows or has ever blinked and missed High on their way out to Fredericksburg, it's really small. And so our first distillery was this little tiny farmhouse in this little tiny shed out back with this really old copper pot still. And that's how we started making rum. And, we spent 5 years out there. Both of us were commuting a long way to get there every single day. And in 2021, we had the opportunity to move to Dripping Springs. Well, during that time, we had already endured the pandemic. We had launched this other brand of flavored rums called Island Getaway. And we moved to a new building and we had some advice just from the industry that we should probably think about getting focused into one thing, right? And it made sense. It was like one bottle, one label, one brand, one name to remember. There's no confusion there, right? And so we landed on the brand, number 1, that we could trademark, but number 2, that resonated with rum drinkers. And people always ask me why rum, and I think that's one of the keys, right? That's why I even did this. Like for me, I was an entrepreneur, I was a single mom, I was doing all these things, and I was busy. So whenever I would get away, it would be with a rum drink, right? So you're like on a cruise ship or you're on a plane, you are checking out for the weekend from all your responsibilities. And I can tell you the first thing I had was a drink with an umbrella in it. And it was always a rum drink. So it's always kind of been my spirit of choice. Leaning into it even further, I understood and found out recently through some genealogy research that my family members, my descendants, were actually trading sugarcane back in the 1400s.
Wow.
So this is a long legacy of just exploration. In the literal sense, obviously, those guys coming in from Spain through the Canary Islands all the way down to the Caribbean. Some people say that's how sugarcane got there, was through the Canary Islands. That's where my descendants are from. And, all the way up through Texas. So literal, right? And then also, like, for me, it's just about exploring what this brand wants to be, how I play the part in it, and what is our larger focus, right? What are we really trying to do with this? So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But I feel like we have a place. We are a manufacturer. We do make our own rums, and I'm just excited to see where it goes.
That is so exciting. I've got so many questions that now come kind of off the back of that. But just this being kind of a business podcast and understanding, how other businesses are growing, I want to kind of set the stage for the viewers. Generally speaking, what does your current kind of ownership structure look like in terms of, I think you mentioned you have a co-founder. So is there one other co-founder? They're outside investors at this point. Kind of what does the business look like just
Yeah.
on an overall sense of structure?
So originally we started out, our business structure is the same. We're an LLC. We started out, there were three of us that were equal stakeholders, right? So we were members in the LLC. We each had an equal amount of units, and we each put in the same amount of capital. Well, once we started to really kind of understand like where we're going and what we needed to do to actually make a living at this business, we ended up buying out one of our third partner, which again, in an LLC, gives you a lot of flexibility to kind of flex and do creative things that maybe some other structures don't allow. And at that point in time, we did the buyout, and then we were able to bring in some outside investors. The funny thing about an LLC is as long as I've ever had that structure, which has been a long time, my business previous to this was a staffing company. We were an LLC then too, but there's so many nuances and there's so much creativity and flexibility that you can do with it. It really takes a skilled attorney that understands corporate law, SEC law, that can really help navigate you so that you say, look, hey, this is what we want to try to accomplish. And they'll tell you how to do that within an LLC. So that's been our general structure. So today, it's myself, my business partner, and then we have a series of smaller investors.
Very cool. I love that. I appreciate you kind of taking us through it. It gives us some really good context because, depending on where, each business is at in their journey, being able to kind of line up with, the answers, the things that you tell us today and how that fits with their journey. So I'm curious, natural kind of next question for me on understanding this part is as one of the founders, as one of the owners, what is your current role? What role do you play within the business currently?
It starts off one way and then it sort of ends another way, right? So where I started on this was, literally in all the day-to-day operations. And that could be anything from getting our tasting room ready for the day, which involves mopping and cleaning and, toilets and all those things, to like chopping fruit, to making drinks, to closing out registers. Like, it was everything. And where I am today is a lot more of a strategic role. So I feel like my goal is to make all of the important relationships that it takes to actually make your business go. And that's something that I think we as entrepreneurs can get a little bit wrapped up in, right? We get involved in the day-to-day. We think there's no one else that can do it for us, and we want to do it all and get it all done. And this is how we're going to do it. Then what we realize after a certain period of time is that is the one thing that is holding us back, is that we are doing everything that we can have somebody probably more skilled than ourselves do, while we focus on making those big relationships that matter. I think not just myself, but probably most business people will tell you it depends on who you know. And if you're not out there meeting those people, you're losing opportunities. I'll just say that. And it's been true for me. And that's been my experience for sure over the last 7 years here.
Mm, so powerful. We always usually ask the question of kind of how much time you're spending, in that day to day versus you being able to be more strategic and work kind of on what does this business continue to look like. So I appreciate you kind of going through that piece. But I want to talk a little bit more about the business and then take a step back and talk a little bit more about your journey before that. So I'm curious, it's a rum brand built or manufactured here in Texas. What makes it different? Why choose Island Getaway Rum versus any other on the shelf there? What makes you all different, or what draws your customers to you?
So I'm going to say we probably have 3 major differences. And, we didn't invent rum. Rum has been around for centuries. I feel like even some of the first, just even inklings of it was like 980. Like it's been around for a long time. But I think what we inadvertently did, and this can happen to you as a business owner, sometimes you do things a certain way because you're new to the industry or you just don't know any better, right? And you somehow invent something new that you didn't know was new. And I think that was the case for us in two different areas. So we make a dark rum. And dark rum is also not new, right? It's a process of taking a base rum, adding French oak to it, and then re-infusing molasses, right? So it's this 3-part process. And rum is kind of the wildest category of all the spirits. There's so many different ways you can make it and so many things you can do. Well, we make a really good one. My business partner, James, is also the distiller, and he makes a freaking fabulous dark rum. Well, what I found out recently, and again, remember, we're 7 years old now. So I found something out two weeks ago that I didn't know, is we're actually one of very few domestic dark rum producers. Most of the dark rum comes from the Caribbean, or it comes from France, or it comes from someplace else. It comes from South America. It does not come from the United States. So that was interesting to me because I was like, wow, I just didn't really know that was even a thing. I knew it was great. I knew people preferred it, just flavor to flavor in blind tastings, but I didn't know that piece. And so that makes us really unique. The second thing is we have a line of flavored rums that we produced. And when James was making these, we were real conscious about everything being as clean and clear as possible, right? So our flavored rums, we wanted to make sure they were actual rums. So they have to qualify at a certain ABV. So it has to be 80 proof. It can't be, really below that. And we wanted it to not have any sugar added to it, right? We wanted just the flavor and the rum, and that's it. Well, we're one of the only ones in the marketplace there too. Huh. And the way that I even found that out is during the pandemic, a gentleman kept coming up to me, and let me tell you, we were trying to operate outside. We were trying to just stay open any way we could possibly be open. We were supposed to be shut down. We could do things outside. We could qualify as a restaurant. We could qualify as a movie theater. We just couldn't qualify as a distillery for a really long time. And so we were doing anything we possibly could to stay afloat. Well, again, this gentleman comes up to me, and I had this big long line. We were swarmed by bees and birds and all kinds of crazy stuff. And he says, does your coconut rum have any sugar in it? And I said, no, it doesn't. He was like, okay. And I was like, oh, can I talk to you in a second? He was like, oh, sure. And he goes back and sits down. And a few minutes later, he comes back up. He's like, wow, I really want to talk to you about this. Like, when are you going to be available? And I was like, well, I've got all these orders. Again, I'm in the day-to-day making pina coladas. And I was like, oh, I just can't really I promise I'll get to you. So he comes back up the third time. And by this time I was like, oh my gosh, what is this guy trying to tell me? And he says to me, I think that you have the only coconut rum in the whole marketplace with no sugar added to it.
Wow.
And he said, and I know that because coconut rum is my favorite. He was like, I collect rum, and I am diabetic, and I can tell you with almost 100% certainty that you may have the only one that's available. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I should definitely listen to that. So we made our next two flavors the exact same way. We have a pineapple rum, same thing, no sugar added, 40% ABV. We have made an orange rum because here in Texas, you can only serve what you make. And so we needed, an orange liqueur type thing. So we made a rum with no sugar. And again, all three of those kind of hit pretty hard, at 80 proof, but then they have the no sugar added. So there's two things, right? We have, one of not too many domestically made dark rums. We have this line of zero sugar flavored rums. And then we are just recently, we became a woman minority owned distillery. And in the alc bev industry as a whole, women minorities are less than 2%. It might even be less than 1%. And that's something that we have to be better at, just as a whole. And so I think right now with diversity, equity, and inclusion being so prominent, people are mindful, that's unique to us. I am a Mexican-American female from Texas. My family's been here since, like I said, I told you what our trajectory was, but that's unusual. And I can tell you that in the state of Texas, I, to my knowledge, am the only Mexican-American female distillery owner. And Texas has 186 distilleries permits out. And I think it's actually just a little bit past 200, but not everybody is producing yet. There's some new ones out there. And so even just in our own state, it's unique. And what I see is that as women, as minority women, it's important for us to understand how to get a seat at the table. And as much as I love to think that I never thought about those things growing up, I just didn't. I'm going to be 50. My mom is a single mom. I didn't learn about those types of things. And so when I do learn them today, I always think it's really fascinating because I just don't think I realized how little representation we had. And so I think when we combine those three things, along with we just have, the liquid in the bottle is just really good. So I think we combine those three things with a little magic in the bottle. We're doing okay. And so I always hope that the right people come to us, the wrong things fall away, and that we really can shine this year. That's my hope for us.
That is so cool. I absolutely appreciate that you have three things that you can just know right off the top of your head. Here's three things that make us, different from anybody else, especially in this area, in this marketplace. It is super cool. You just taught me a bunch of things I didn't know, which is awesome. So thank you. Because of this, I if it's all right, I want to just ask you like one or two questions on marketing, because I think it may help other business owners. It's an area that oftentimes business owners may kind of struggle with, especially early on in smaller businesses. So I'm always curious what successful businesses are doing. When you look at some of the marketing strategies that y'all have used, especially having these different things that make you unique, how many different ways do you generate business currently? How many different marketing strategies are y'all using?
So we have a couple of different things that we do. I'll start off with a little bit of foundation. Is before I did this at the company that I had before, I was the chief marketing officer. So I had a marketing background as far as like being in a sales organization and needing to go out into the field and do those types of things, trade shows, collateral, all those types of things. So I had that background, and I'll be 50 this year. And so I've been in the workforce as a whole for 35 years. It's longer than most of my staff has been alive. So I had some background. Now here's the thing, right? Like my degree is in history and I have a business minor. it was not in marketing. And so a lot of the things that I was doing were kind of self-taught or taught by people that I knew, or just by getting in there and saying like, hey, I may not know the foundations of what I need to do, but I can see that there's an opportunity for us to do this or copy this or emulate this. And so we've taken a lot of that into our strategy, but I'll tell you, for us right now, the best thing we can possibly do is have boots on the ground. It is like so old school. There is nothing new about doing that. But the way that liquor has to be sold in the state of Texas, we have a lot of tiers, and it's not terribly different in the other states, but we have to have people on the ground that go to make relationships. And the biggest mover of business is those relationships. Like, I cannot harp on that enough. People want to know you. They want to know who they're buying from. They want to know what they're buying, and they want to know that they can count on you later. We're not, something that a spatula that you buy on Amazon where, I don't know who I bought that from. I spent $14 and I'm only going to buy one time. We are trying to create customers with legacy where they last and last and last. If I want my brand to be in every single restaurant, bar, hotel, cruise line, airline in the world, I have to make a lot of really good relationships to do that, And so for us, it takes the people that understand how to do that, people who are willing to do that and enjoy doing it, and I think like in the digital age, it's easy to get away from actually face-to-face interactions. But I find that that's the most important thing we could be doing, even ahead of our digital, ahead of our website, ahead of anything, is being willing to go make those relationships happen. That being said, digital is important. And for me, and for my team, like what we are always doing is we're always seeking people who are smarter than us. We've never had a big marketing budget, right? We started this distillery with $61,000. We did not start with a $5 million, investment from who knows what company. We started with $61,000. We had to be scrappy and resourceful, which meant we had no marketing budget. And that is often still the case. So when I do bring in investment capital, I think about what are the places where we would have the most impact. And we're finally at that stage. We got a grant from the state of Texas to spend some marketing dollars. And one thing we have to do is hire people who are faster and smarter than ourselves in that area. And I think, again, when you can focus on what your strengths are, and you can give the strengths over to someone else who is stronger. Sometimes it's even us just hiring somebody on Fiverr, right? We need something done technical. We need 3D renderings. We don't have a lot of money, but this guy will do it for us for $100, across the world. Perfect. We can afford that, and you get, I think the digital space gives you so many opportunities like that may not have existed before. But, again, being resourceful is the key, understanding where to find those types of things, how to find those types of grants, how to find investment so that you can hire people so that you aren't doing everything yourself day to day. Because here's what I know after all of this time is I cannot do it all. And when I try, we don't grow.
Isn't that powerful?
Yes.
I always love to ask kind of about team, and I know we're coming up on time, so I want to be respectful of that here. But when you look at your team today and the power of hiring people that are smarter than you, bringing on really great people, do you have a lot of leaders developing on your team?
Yes. And they're all different ages. But I'm still the oldest one, which is, like I said, I've been doing work for 35 years and they're all still just born, but they're all kinds, one of them is my son, who's been with us since he was 17, so he's learning how to even just be in the workforce. He's 25 now, so he's been with us all 7 years, but that's somebody who had never really had a job before, like from a 40-hour a week, it was always part-time or this or that or whatever. to people who are coming from other parts of the industry, like from wineries or something else. Again, they're learning the beverage industry from this side, from the liquor manufacturer side. To people who came to us from mortgage. Mortgages are not doing well right now, and they are willing to get out there and hustle. So it's all over the place. But as those guys grow and the longer they stay and the more we engage them, the easier it makes it for me to be able to do those bigger strategic things. Because, again, we've never had a lot of money. We don't pay a ton. So we have to be able to compete with benefits or time off or things. We have to get creative to bring in the talent that will help us make those bigger moves. And it's available. I always, we get in our minds and tell ourselves, oh, we can't do this, or we can't do this, or I got to pay somebody this much and I just don't have it. Get creative, because the right people will come. And if you can get creative, you may be doing yourself a big favor.
I love that. We could spend an entire 30 minutes talking about, building up team and some different things there. And I know unfortunately we don't have that kind of time today. But as we kind of start to wrap up, we've covered a ton in this conversation so far. I appreciate it. For those that are watching, highly encourage you to, pause it, save this video, come back, watch it again, take out some of the nuggets. But as we begin to wrap up, I like to kind of have a few rapid fire questions. So meant to be kind of top head answers. I know we could give probably super long answers for some of these as well, but meant to be more top ahead. So I've got 4 to rattle off, and then we'll wrap up with one final question that I always like to end these conversations on. So rapid fire for you, what is the number one key to success?
Relationships.
What is the one piece of advice that you would give other business owners?
Don't do it all yourself.
What is one book that you are reading now or have read most recently?
Ooh. Green Lights, Matthew McConaughey.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
It is. If you had to choose only one area in your entire business that you could immediately wave a magic wand and improve tomorrow, what area would it be?
Capital. All day.
Love it. So before we wrap up with the final question here, for those that are watching that want to continue to learn more, hear from you, check out your podcast to find out more about Island Getaway Rum, where they can find it, all of that. Where can we guide people to go next for more information?
So I think the best place is definitely our website. It is islandgetawayrum.com. You can click there and get our phone number or an email address or whatever. And then, of course, definitely for me, LinkedIn is a great place. If you're looking for any resources, Stephanie Houston, Island Getaway Rum, both of those things are on LinkedIn. That's a fabulous way to contact me direct. And I'm always willing to help. I feel like not only am I here to promote my team and my product, but I feel like there are businesses out there that are always struggling. And if I can offer any connections or any wisdom or anything, I always want to be available to do that.
Beautiful. For those that are watching, as soon as we wrap up here, go down to the description below, because I will have LinkedIn profile, I'll have the website, I'll have all that stuff linked down there. So make sure you go check it all out as soon as we wrap up here today. But Stephanie, I want to appreciate and thank you for your time. As we wrap up, I like to end on kind of one very specific question, and that is what is most inspiring to you today?
Oh gosh, today there's too many. I think I wake up every single day and I listen to either a meditation or I watch some kind of a master class, and I get inspired by that shift of mindset every single morning. The days that I don't do it, I can tell. And so it always inspires me to be my best. If I had to pick one thing from that, you know what? Getting up early. I have never been a person who gets up early, and I have made myself do it this year. And when I do it, I can do all of those self-care items first thing, meditate, learn, go to the gym, eat a coffee, make my own coffee, breakfast, whatever, all before 7 a.m. Oh my gosh, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. It's an inspiring way to start your day.
Absolutely love that. Stephanie, thank you so much for taking the time. It has been a true pleasure. One of these times when we have to, do a second rendition of this, because I'm sure I could
Yeah.
ask so many other questions, but appreciate you taking the time and being willing to share some of this journey with us today.
Thank you so much.